Israel's far right has a message for Benjamin Netanyahu. End Hamas, not the war. As Trump pressures for peace and the world recognizes Palestine, settler leaders demand annexation of the West Bank and full sovereignty. Now, Netanyahu stands at a crossroads: appease allies abroad or bow to hardliners at home. Despite the mounting international pressure on Israel, an end to the Gaza situation seems unlikely for now. And one of the primary reasons for that has been the relentless backing from the United States. Lately, however, there is a clear shift in Donald Trump's tone.
We've had some really good talks today on Gaza with both the Middle East representatives and kings and all of the top leaders in the Middle East, and we had also a very good conversation with Bibi Netanyahu, trying to get the hostages back, and we're trying to get the end of the Gaza situation. It's really bad, very bad, and we think it could happen. Maybe it could happen pretty soon. We want the hostages back, we want the bodies back, and we want to have peace in that region. So we had some very good talk.
In his UN speech, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu didn't seem to be in any mood for reconciliation or peace, and rather was clear that Israel was planning on continuing the offensive until it completely eradicated Hamas.
The leaders who recognize the Palestinian state this week sent to the Palestinians, it's a very clear message. Murdering Jews pays off. Well, I have a message for these leaders. When the most savage terrorists on earth are effusively praising your decision, you didn't do something right. You did something wrong, horribly wrong. Your disgraceful decision will encourage terrorism against Jews and against innocent people everywhere.
By the end of the UN speeches of both leaders, it was clear that they were not on the same page anymore. And then Trump told the press,
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
It was clear after Trump's statement that Israel is facing increasing global pressure to end the conflict and occupation of the West Bank, as a wave of Western states formally recognize an independent Palestinian state. Netanyahu is now caught in the middle. On one side, the international community, including his longtime allies, are asking for de-escalation and recognition of the Palestinian state. On the other side, far-right Israelis are pleading with him not to end the war. Settler leaders and far-right government ministers renewed public pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to annex parts of the West Bank and not end the war in Gaza without the total military defeat of Hamas, in an attempt to counteract American pressure on both issues. And the Trump administration has drafted a 21-point plan, obtained by the Times of Israel, to end the war and free all the hostages, while encouraging Palestinians to remain in the Strip, removing Hamas from power and creating a pathway toward a future Palestinian state. But the plan's creation of a potential pathway to a future Palestinian state could well be a red line for Netanyahu, who has long campaigned on having prevented a two-state solution.
Giving the Palestinians a state 1 mile from Jerusalem after October 7th is like giving Al-Qaeda a state 1 mile from New York City after September 11th. This is sheer madness. It's insane, and we won't do it.
According to the Israeli media, despite sticking to his guns at the UN, Netanyahu is expected to make painful and significant concessions under the American plan. Back home, though, the far right is pushing for the war and complete eradication of Hamas from the Holy Land. The Yesha Council Settlement Umbrella Group, a far-right body for Jewish settlement, is sending an emergency delegation to the United States to meet Netanyahu before his meeting with Trump. The West Bank mayors, council heads and other officials were set to tell the Prime Minister that the territory should be under full Israeli sovereignty and that the decision was his alone, despite Trump's remark that he wouldn't allow annexation.
Only sovereignty in Judea and Samaria is victory. Disagreements can also happen between friends, and Netanyahu is precisely the one who can stand up and tell the United States that this is what is good for the nation of Israel.
With pressure mounting on all sides, it will be interesting to see what transpires between Trump and Netanyahu on Monday. It is apparent that something has to give. The only question is who. Meanwhile, if Israel does decide to push on the offensive, the results could be, well, bad. If Israel were to annex the West Bank, it would reshape the landscape of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and have profound local, regional, and international repercussions. Annexing the West Bank would represent a formal and legal assertion of Israeli sovereignty over territory that the UN and most of the world consider occupied. This would be viewed globally as a violation of international law, including numerous United Nations resolutions and the advisory opinions of the International Court of Justice. The Palestinian Authority would face an existential crisis, as it would lose any semblance of legitimacy or governing authority in annexed areas, likely collapsing under the pressure. Such an act would be interpreted as ending any realistic prospect of a two-state solution, reducing remaining Palestinian-controlled areas to small, disconnected enclaves. Annexation would also likely lead to a spike in violence, not only between Palestinians and Israeli security forces, but possibly on a wider regional scale. The collapse of the PA would end Israeli-Palestinian security coordination, creating a power vacuum and possibly enabling more radical groups to operate. Israel could face both mass civil unrest and isolated attacks, as well as intensified calls for resistance throughout the Arab and Muslim world. Remember the Six-Day War? Well, if this one happens, it is surely going to be longer than 6.